Chapter 29. The Strongest Support, Eye of Good and Evil. At this moment, Kiko perhaps still didn't fully grasp the weight of Hiroshi's promise, but what she clearly understood now was that she no longer needed to hide anything from brother. So, she recounted everything she had encountered during the time Hiroshi was away from the farm. Hiroshi's eyes widened as he listened. He heard some incredible things. You mean, you saw those bad people emitting a red light? Hiroshi felt a dryness in his throat, realizing that Kiko seemed to have undergone changes recently that even he wasn't aware of. Yes, Kiko nodded decisively. Kiko doesn't like that kind of light. It makes me nervous. Hiroshi rubbed his chin, his mind racing. Besides those people, did anyone else emit light? He squatted down and asked softly, eager for the answer.
Yes.
Kiko nodded firmly. Big Brother emits a relaxing blue light, and Benji emits a friendly green one. Oh, and when Uncle Nin left just now, he had a dull gray light, very oppressive, just like when we saw his big brother lying in bed the night before last. Hiroshi couldn't help but swallow hard at her words. It seemed Kiko wasn't lying at all. She seemed to have awakened some kind of ability. Hiroshi suddenly felt ashamed. Starting a few days ago, Kiko would occasionally mutter to herself things like, Kiko is pink, Big Brother is blue. But Hiroshi always thought she was too engrossed in watching cartoons, so he never asked further. Now it seemed that if he had shown a little more concern for Kiko, he might have known earlier. Kiko, besides seeing different lights on people, did you notice anything else around them? Hiroshi pursued. Like words? Or some data? Kiko shook her head. Nope. Hiroshi stood up and, based on what Kiko said, deduced that her abilities seemed to have appeared after the arrival of the Destruction Era. Could it be that the Destruction Era not only destroyed the world, but also bestowed miraculous powers upon some lucky individuals? Hiroshi opened a search engine to see if similar incidents had occurred worldwide. But after browsing through numerous posts, most were just nonsense from masters before the Destruction Era, and there was nothing comparable to what Kiko was experiencing. After a moment of silence, he closed the search engine. No explanations, just inexplicable lights. What exactly is the ability of this power? Hiroshi was worried. He had a pair of eyes to show details of everything, but they couldn't reveal the nature of Kiko's ability. It seemed he could only speculate about its effects. Let me sort this out, Hiroshi decided. He sat down and softly asked Kiko about the different people she had encountered recently, the colors of light they emitted, and their relationships with Kiko. Kiko propped up her little head and slowly recalled. Half an hour later, the sheet of paper in front of Hiroshi was filled with a list of people Kiko had encountered recently, the colors of light they emitted, their relationships with Kiko, and the distribution of light colors. First was himself. Hiroshi, Kiko's closest relative, emitted a blue light that was said to be very relaxing. Next was the night before last when he saw Angus. At that time, lying on the sickbed, he was a dull gray, very oppressive. But this morning, Angus's light turned blood red, making Kiko very uncomfortable. As for Uncle Nan, the faint light he emitted when he was at his house was a light green. But when he left just now, it turned dull gray. As for the people Kiko saw in front of the South City department store, the light they emitted was all dull gray. Hiroshi fell silent for a moment and wrote on the paper, changes in light may indicate whether they harbor ill intentions towards Kiko. Hiroshi thought about it, and finally confirmed that his speculation was correct. The light Kiko saw indeed represented whether the other person had ill intentions towards her. This is simply a human reconnaissance device. Hiroshi couldn't help but laugh. This is amazing. In the end of days, what was most terrifying? It wasn't the disaster itself, but human hearts. He could achieve everything through items sold in the store, but he couldn't see through people's hearts. And now, Kiko had this ability. It completely made up for his only shortcoming and made everything perfect. Among all the reconnaissance devices I've seen, I'd call you the strongest. Hiroshi patted Kiko's little head. With this ability, I acknowledge you. Kiko blinked her big eyes. She didn't quite understand the Naruto reference, as she was always immersed in Paw Patrol, but hearing Hiroshi's words made her excited. Can Kiko help from now on? she asked seriously. Of course, Hiroshi whispered. In the future, if you see someone emitting a red light, you must tell Big Brother. Okay. Kiko nodded earnestly. Red isn't good. It makes Kiko very nervous. I'll tell Big Brother to scare them away. Hiroshi squatted down, contemplating something. My data-ized ability is called True Eyes, Hiroshi said as he placed his hand on Kiko's head, smiling indulgently. Your ability, let's call it the Eye of Good and Evil. From now on, you're my strongest support.